Earth had never been alone in the universe, but it took until 2087 for humanity to finally confirm it. The signal came first. Strange patterns detected by radio telescopes in Hawaii that clearly weren't natural. Scientists around the world analyzed the transmission for weeks before realizing they were looking at mathematics, then language, then coordinates. Dr. Frank Miller had been working late at NASA's Communications Center when the final translation came through. "They're coming here," he said, his voice barely above a whisper as he stared at his screen. "They're actually coming here." Within days, the president appointed a first contact team. Frank led the scientific division, while Captain Laura Jenkins coordinated military preparedness. Governments worldwide began preparing for the arrival, though no one quite knew what to prepare for. The ships appeared 93 days after the first message. They simply materialized in Earth orbit, 7 massive vessels that dwarf the International Space Station. Each one stretched nearly 2 miles long, with strange blue lights pulsing along their dark hulls. They could have attacked immediately, Laura noted during an emergency meeting. The fact that they're just sitting up there suggests they want to talk. The aliens called themselves the Zoraxians. They controlled vast regions of the galaxy and had mastered technologies humans had only dreamed about. Their ambassador, Lord Krell, addressed the United Nations with promises of friendship and advancement. "The Zoraxian Empire welcomes Earth into the galactic community," he proclaimed through a translator device. Lord Krell stood nearly 7 feet tall, with gray-blue skin that seemed to shimmer under the lights. His eyes, 3 of them, blinked independently as he spoke. "We offer knowledge beyond your imagination." Most world leaders eagerly embraced the opportunity. Some, like Sam Cooper, weren't so sure. Sam worked in intelligence analysis for the U.S. government. He spent hours studying recordings of the Zoraxians, noticing details others missed. "Watch how they look at us," he told Frank over coffee one evening. "It's the same way people look at animals in a zoo. Curious, maybe even fascinated, but not as equals." "You're being paranoid," Frank replied, though doubt had begun creeping into his mind as well. The Zoraxians established diplomatic outposts in major cities. They demonstrated medical technology that could cure cancer and energy systems that made fossil fuels obsolete. But they were careful about what they shared and with whom. 3 months after first contact, Lord Krell presented a formal treaty to the UN Security Council. It promised technological exchange, cultural cooperation, and mutual defense. Earth would gain protection from other potentially hostile species, while providing the Zoraxians with certain natural resources. This section about human auxiliary service seems vague, Laura pointed out during the review session. What exactly does that involve? Merely cultural exchange and educational opportunities, Lord Krell explained smoothly. Some humans would have the honor of serving aboard our vessels, learning our ways. The treaty passed with overwhelming support. Few noticed how the Zoraxian delegation exchanged knowing glances during the signing ceremony. Work began immediately on joint cultural centers around the world. The Zoraxians insisted on designing these facilities themselves, claiming they needed special environmental controls. Frank became increasingly uneasy as more ships arrived in orbit. The Zoraxians were polite, but kept humans away from certain areas of their vessels and facilities. When Frank asked questions about their home world or history, they provided only vague answers. One evening, as Frank was leaving a cultural center in Washington, he noticed a secure room with unusual equipment. A Zoraxian guard quickly blocked his view. "That area is restricted due to atmospheric requirements," the guard stated flatly. Later that night, Frank received an encrypted message from Sam. "Found something. Meet tomorrow. Don't trust regular channels." Frank stared at his ceiling that night, unable to sleep. Humanity had reached for the stars for centuries, dreaming of first contact. But no one had prepared for the possibility that when advanced aliens finally arrived, they might not have humanity's best interests at heart. The 6 months following first contact had changed Earth dramatically. Zoraxian cultural centers gleamed in every major city, their sleek designs standing out against human architecture. People lined up daily to witness alien technology demonstrations or apply for positions in the cultural exchange program. Diane Powell hadn't trusted the aliens from the beginning. A former aerospace engineer, she now worked maintenance at the Chicago Cultural Center, keeping her head down and her eyes open. The Zoraxians rarely noticed maintenance staff, which gave her unprecedented access. "Something's wrong with these buildings," she told her friend Jack Reynolds over a secure line. Jack had served 3 tours in the military before the aliens arrived. The walls contain technology that isn't on any blueprints. Jack had his own suspicions. "I've noticed fewer people returning from those exchange programs. The Zoraxians claim they're just extending their stays, but families aren't receiving messages anymore." Working together, they began documenting irregularities. Diane secretly scanned the strange devices embedded in the cultural center walls, discovering they emitted low-frequency waves that affected human brain chemistry. Jack, meanwhile, used his military contacts to track disappearing exchange participants. Their breakthrough came when Jack managed to infiltrate a restricted area of the New York Cultural Center. Wearing a maintenance uniform and using access codes Diane had discovered, he entered a secure communications room while Zoraxian staff were occupied with a delegation. "I'm in," he whispered into his hidden microphone. "There's a terminal here. I'm connecting the device now." Diane had built a data extraction tool disguised as a routine diagnostic scanner. Jack connected it to a Zoraxian terminal and began downloading files. He had barely finished when a door opened nearby. "Human, this area is restricted," a Zoraxian security officer said sharply. "Just checking the air filtration systems," Jack replied calmly, though his heart raced. "Ambassador Krell requested optimal conditions for tomorrow's ceremony." The security officer hesitated, then nodded. "Complete your work quickly." The stolen data was more damning than they had imagined. The files contained reports to the Zoraxian High Command, detailing Earth's conquest in phases. Humans weren't being invited into a galactic community. They were being systematically prepared for servitude. "They've done this before," Diane said as they reviewed the files in a basement safe house. "There are records of 17 other species, all conquered through similar methods. First contact, technology sharing, treaties, then complete subjugation. The most disturbing discovery was the purpose behind it all. The Zoraxians needed laborers for their mining operations across multiple star systems. Their empire was built on resource extraction, and they considered Earth particularly valuable for its mineral wealth and abundant workforce. The cultural centers aren't cultural at all," Jack realized. "They're processing facilities. Those waves are designed to make people more compliant." They had just begun spreading their findings to trusted contacts when the Zoraxians made their move. Without warning, ships descended on major government facilities worldwide. Troops deployed from the cultural centers, their weapons far more advanced than the demonstration technology they had previously shown. Jack watched in horror from a rooftop as Zoraxian soldiers secured the White House. Similar scenes played out at the Kremlin, Downing Street, and other centers of human government. That evening, Lord Krell addressed the world through all communication channels. His formerly pleasant demeanor had vanished, replaced by cold authority. "People of Earth," he announced, "your trial period has concluded. The Zoraxian Empire has evaluated your species and determined your optimal function. You will now begin your service as auxiliary labor. Resistance is inadvisable and will result in penalties to your living conditions." Diane and Jack looked at each other as the broadcast continued, detailing new regulations and work assignments. "What do we do now?" Diane asked quietly. Jack pulled out a hidden military satellite phone. "We fight back, and I know just who to call." Around the world, others were reaching the same conclusion. The deception was over, but humanity was far from defeated. Eric Daniels had spent 15 years in special forces before retiring to Montana. When the Zoraxians revealed their true intentions, he immediately began organizing a resistance. His remote cabin became command central for what would soon grow into a nationwide network. "They think we'll just roll over," Eric told the small group gathered in his living room. "That's their first mistake." Among those present was Maya Rodriguez, a former cybersecurity expert who had worked for the government before the invasion. "I've established secure communications using old radio frequencies. The Zoraxians are monitoring the internet and cell networks, but they've mostly ignored technology they consider obsolete." Within weeks, resistance cells formed across North America, then spread to other continents. Maya's communication network allowed them to share information without detection. What they learned gave them hope. The Zoraxians had weaknesses. "Their armor is designed to stop energy weapons, not physical projectiles," reported a cell from Texas that had ambushed a Zoraxian patrol. "Regular bullets can penetrate if you hit the right spots between the plates." The Zoraxians had made a critical error in their conquest planning. Their previous conquests had involved species that surrendered after demonstration of superior technology. They hadn't prepared for sustained guerrilla warfare from a species that refused to accept defeat. Small victories began to accumulate. A resistance team in Colorado destroyed a transport ship. A group in Brazil freed hundreds of humans from a processing center. Each success brought more recruits to the resistance. Dr. Alan Patel joined Eric's group 3 months into the occupation. A physicist who had briefly worked with Zoraxian technology before the takeover, he brought valuable insights. "Their weapons work on principles similar to our own, just more advanced," he explained as he dismantled a captured Zoraxian rifle. "I believe we can reverse engineer these and possibly improve them." Under Alan's guidance, the resistance began adapting Zoraxian technology. They discovered that human ingenuity could sometimes improve upon alien designs. The Zoraxians had developed their technology over centuries of peace. They weren't innovating under pressure the way humans now were. Meanwhile, the aliens continued building mining operations and processing facilities. Humans who hadn't joined the resistance were forced to work under harsh conditions. The Zoraxians established labor camps where people worked 16-hour shifts extracting minerals the Empire needed. Eric planned their biggest operation yet, liberating the labor camp near what had once been Denver. Over 300 humans were held there, guarded by only 20 Zoraxians who relied on their technological superiority for control. "We strike at night," Eric told his team. "Maya has figured out how to disrupt their security systems for exactly 6 minutes. That's our window." The night of the raid, 50 resistance fighters moved into position around the camp. At precisely 2:00 a.m., Maya activated her disruption device. The alien security systems went dark. The resistance moved swiftly, using captured Zoraxian weapons and their knowledge of the aliens' armor weaknesses. Within 4 minutes, they had neutralized the guards and begun evacuating prisoners. "Who are you people?" asked one bewildered prisoner as Eric led him to a transport. "Just humans who don't like being told what to do," Eric replied. By morning, the resistance had vanished with all 300 former prisoners, many of whom immediately volunteered to join the fight. The Zoraxians found only empty buildings and their own dead guards. News of the successful raid spread through Maya's communication network, inspiring similar operations worldwide. The Zoraxians, who had expected to be managing a compliant workforce by now, instead found themselves fighting an increasingly effective resistance on all fronts. In his cabin, Eric studied a map marked with Zoraxian installations. "They thought we were just another species to add to their collection," he said to Maya. "They didn't understand what they were getting into." The Zoraxians were about to learn a painful lesson. Humans don't make good slaves. The Zoraxian High Command was not pleased. 6 months into what should have been a routine planetary acquisition, they were facing unprecedented resistance. Lord Krell was summoned back to the Imperial flagship in Earth orbit, where he found himself standing before Governor Vex, a battle-scarred veteran known for crushing rebellions. "You assured us these humans would be manageable," Governor Vex said, his 3 eyes narrowing to slits. "Yet our losses increase daily. Explain this failure." The humans are more adaptable than anticipated, Lord Krell replied nervously, but they are still primitives, with more forces. You are relieved of command, Vex interrupted. I will handle this situation personally. Governor Vex wasted no time implementing harsher measures. The next day, Zoraxian warships positioned themselves above major cities that had shown resistance activity. Without warning, they fired energy weapons that reduced sections of Chicago, Bangkok, and Lagos to smoldering craters. Let this be a demonstration, Vex announced in a worldwide broadcast. Further resistance will result in the complete destruction of your population centers. Submit now, and your species may yet survive. The attacks killed thousands, but instead of crushing human spirits, they hardened resolve. Recruitment for the resistance doubled overnight. Vex introduced a new control measure, cybernetic implants for all human workers. These devices attach to the spine and could trigger intense pain or paralysis if the wearer disobeyed orders or entered restricted areas. Soon all humans will wear compliance devices, a Zoraxian officer told the first group of test subjects. Resistance will become physically impossible. Dr. Olivia Clark had been working in a Zoraxian medical facility when she witnessed the first implantations. That night, she stole one of the devices and fled to join the resistance. As a neurologist, she understood what she was seeing. The implants interface directly with the nervous system, she explained to Eric and his leadership team. But they have a design flaw. They're calibrated for Zoraxian biology, then modified for humans. If we can exploit that difference, we might be able to disable them. Olivia worked tirelessly for weeks, testing theories on the stolen device. Meanwhile, Commander Paul Wilson, a former Navy SEAL who had joined Eric's resistance cell, proposed a daring plan. We need better transportation, he argued. If we could capture one of their shuttles, we'd have access to their orbital facilities. The plan was risky, but necessary. Paul assembled a team of 8 former military personnel, including pilots who had been studying Zoraxian flight technology. They targeted a supply shuttle that made regular trips between the flagship and a ground base in Arizona. The raid was precisely timed. As the shuttle landed for its weekly supply run, resistance fighters attacked with modified Zoraxian weapons. They neutralized the guards and captured the shuttle before reinforcements could respond. 2 resistance fighters were lost, but the shuttle and its Zoraxian pilot were secured. Get this ship to our hidden facility, Paul ordered, and keep the pilot alive. We need to learn everything about their systems. Back at the resistance headquarters, Olivia had a breakthrough with the implants. She discovered that a specific electromagnetic frequency could disrupt the connection between the device and the nervous system without alerting Zoraxian monitors. It's not perfect, she admitted as they tested her device on a rescued worker, but it gives us a fighting chance against their control measures. The Zoraxians continued their brutal campaign, destroying more cities and forcing implants on thousands of humans. Governor Vex became increasingly frustrated as resistance activities persisted despite his harsh tactics. These humans are unlike any species we've encountered, he reported to the Imperial Council. They continue fighting long past when other species would surrender. Then exterminate them all and mine the planet with automated equipment, came the cold reply. As Vex prepared for genocide, he remained unaware that Paul's team had not only mastered the captured shuttle, but had begun training pilots for more captures. And in resistance labs worldwide, Olivia's implant disruptor was being mass-produced. The Zoraxians thought they were dealing with simple primitives. They were about to discover just how wrong they were. 1 year after the Zoraxian invasion, Earth had become something no one could have predicted. Humans had transformed from victims to formidable opponents, adapting Zoraxian technology in ways the aliens never imagined possible. Kevin Garcia had been an electrical engineer before the invasion. Now he led a team of scientists who modified captured Zoraxian weapons. He stood in an underground lab, demonstrating his latest creation to resistance leaders. This rifle combines Zoraxian energy tech with human ballistic principles, Kevin explained, hefting the hybrid weapon. It fires projectiles wrapped in energy fields that penetrate their armor better than either technology alone. We call it the Breacher. The weapon represented something the Zoraxians hadn't anticipated: human innovation. While the aliens relied on technology perfected over centuries, humans rapidly improvised and adapted under pressure. On the flagship orbiting Earth, Governor Vex received increasingly troubling reports. His lieutenants struggled to explain why controlling humans was proving so difficult. The other species we conquered accepted their place in the Empire, one officer noted. These humans continue fighting even when victory seems impossible. They lack the logical thinking of civilized beings, Vex replied dismissively. Increase the punishment protocols. But increasing brutality only strengthened human resolve, and now the Resistance had a new advantage. They had broken into Zoraxian communication networks. Maya Rodriguez had spent months analyzing captured communication devices. Working with former hackers, she discovered a backdoor into the alien encryption. We can hear everything they say, she told Eric during a secure meeting. And they have no idea we're listening. This intelligence revealed something crucial. The Zoraxian Empire was stretched thin. Earth wasn't their only problem. Rebellions had begun on other conquered worlds, inspired by stories of human resistance that had leaked through Imperial communications. The Resistance also made contact with members of other enslaved species working on Earth. These aliens, primarily used as technical specialists by the Zoraxians, provided valuable insights into Imperial weaknesses. Their fleet maintenance schedules create predictable vulnerabilities, explained a translator working with a Draxian engineer who had defected to the humans, and their command structure cannot adapt quickly to unexpected threats. Armed with this knowledge, Resistance leaders from around the world gathered via Maya's secure network to plan a coordinated global uprising. The plan was audacious: simultaneous attacks on every major Zoraxian installation worldwide, followed by an assault on their orbital command centers. Lieutenant Nicol Foster, a former fighter pilot now leading Resistance forces in Australia, developed the space assault plan. Thanks to Commander Wilson's shuttle capture operation, they now had 12 Zoraxian vessels and pilots trained to fly them. The Zoraxians expect attacks from the ground, Nicol explained. They won't anticipate humans piloting their own ships against them. On the chosen day, Resistance cells moved into position around the world. Kevin's breacher rifles were distributed to strike teams. Olivia's implant disruptors freed thousands of controlled workers who immediately joined the fight. The uprising began at dawn in Tokyo and followed the sun westward. As each time zone reached the designated hour, Resistance fighters attacked. Zoraxian bases fell one after another, their defenders overwhelmed by perfectly coordinated assaults using their own technology against them. Governor Vex watched in disbelief as reports flooded in from around the planet. "This is impossible," he growled. "They're primitives." As ground forces secured Earth-based facilities, Nicol led the space assault. 12 captured shuttles, modified with Kevin's weapons technology, approached the Zoraxian flagship. The aliens, never expecting to be attacked with their own vessels, were caught completely unprepared. Nicol's voice crackled over the Resistance communication network as her team breached the flagship's hangar. "We're inside, moving to secure the command deck." Across Earth, humans celebrated as Zoraxian control centers fell. Freed from implants and inspired by the prospect of victory, even ordinary citizens joined the fight, overwhelming alien forces through sheer numbers and determination. In his command center, Eric watched the battle reports with growing hope. "They thought conquering Earth would be easy," he said quietly. They never understood what they were facing. The tide hadn't just turned, it had become a tsunami. Governor Vex barricaded himself in the command center of the Zoraxian flagship as Nicol Foster's team fought their way through the corridors. Around him, alien officers worked frantically to respond to the unprecedented assault. "The humans have captured 23 of our vessels," an officer reported, his voice trembling. "They're attacking our orbital stations and planetary defense systems." "Impossible." Vex slammed his fist on the command console. How could primitives master our technology so quickly? The answer was something the Zoraxians had never considered. Humans evolved on a planet where adaptation meant survival. Thousands of years of warfare against each other had made humans exceptionally good at turning enemy strengths into weaknesses. Major Greg Martinez led the captured fleet. A former Air Force pilot, he had discovered that Zoraxian ships responded remarkably well to human reflexes. In fact, humans could execute maneuvers the more cautious Zoraxians never attempted. Target their engine stabilizers. Greg commanded his squadron. Their ships can't handle sharp directional changes without them. The human-piloted Zoraxian vessels moved in patterns the aliens had never seen, diving, rolling, and attacking from impossible angles. Zoraxian pilots, trained in centuries of standardized combat procedures, couldn't match the unpredictable human tactics. Meanwhile, on Earth, resistance forces secured the last major Zoraxian strongholds. In captured command centers, humans gained access to the Empire's full communication network, revealing the extent of their conquests across dozens of star systems. Dr. Lisa Hernandez, a microbiologist working with the Resistance, made another critical discovery during examination of Zoraxian prisoners. Their immune systems are extremely specialized, she explained to Resistance leaders. They'd eliminated disease on their worlds through genetic engineering, but it's made them vulnerable. Earth's bacteria, which pose no threat to us, could be devastating to them. This biological vulnerability explained why Zoraxian troops always wore sealed armor on Earth. It wasn't just for combat, it was for survival. Governor Vex received increasingly desperate messages from the Imperial High Command. The uprising on Earth had inspired rebellions on 3 other conquered worlds. For the first time in centuries, the Zoraxian Empire faced a genuine threat to its power. You must regain control immediately, the Imperial Overseer demanded through a secure channel. Use the planetary bombardment option if necessary. Vex moved to activate the doomsday weapons that could render Earth uninhabitable, but never got the chance. The doors to the command center burst open as Nicole's team breached the final defenses. Surrender now, Nicole ordered, her captured Zoraxian weapon aimed at Vex's head. The governor had never faced direct combat. Like most Zoraxian leaders, he commanded from safety while others fought. Faced with actual danger, he froze. With the flagship captured, humans gained control of the Zoraxian command systems. They discovered the locations of the Empire's home fleet and primary command stations. The Resistance leadership made a bold decision. Rather than just liberating Earth, they would take the fight to the Empire itself. Commander Julia Bennett, a former naval strategist, developed the assault plan. The Zoraxians have never faced a counter-invasion. Their home systems are minimally defended because no species has ever fought back effectively. Using captured ships and the command codes found on the flagship, Julia led a fleet toward the Imperial command station. The ships carried Earth's most experienced fighters, along with representatives from other species who had been enslaved by the Zoraxians. The journey took 2 weeks. When they arrived at the massive space station that served as the Empire's administrative center, they transmitted captured Imperial authorization codes. "They're letting us dock," Julia informed her team as the massive doors opened. They have no idea who's really on board. The assault was swift and decisive. Human teams secured key systems while their alien allies guided them through the unfamiliar layout. Within hours, they controlled the central hub of the Zoraxian Empire. Julia stood on the command deck, looking at screens showing panicked responses from Zoraxian worlds as news of the takeover spread. "Send the message," she told her communications officer. Throughout the Empire, on every conquered world, the same transmission appeared. The Zoraxian Empire has fallen. All enslaved worlds are now free. Earth stands with you. The counter-invasion had succeeded beyond anyone's wildest dreams. Humanity hadn't just saved itself, it had liberated the galaxy. 5 years after the fall of the Zoraxian Empire, the galaxy had changed dramatically. Earth, once targeted for enslavement, now stood at the center of a new interstellar alliance. Representatives from 17 formerly subjugated species gathered in a grand hall built in Geneva, Switzerland, for the Third Assembly of the Galactic Council. Admiral Peter Blackwell, who had commanded Earth's defense forces during the later stages of the conflict, addressed the diverse gathering. Translators converted his words into a dozen different languages simultaneously. 5 years ago, none of us knew the others existed, Peter said, looking across the assembly of beings with different shapes, sizes, and colors. Today, we build a future together based on mutual respect and cooperation. The path to this moment hadn't been easy. After the Zoraxian defeat, there had been chaos across former Imperial territories. Some worlds wanted revenge against any Zoraxians they could find. Others fell into internal conflicts as they struggled with newfound freedom. Earth had emerged as a stabilizing force. Humans, still new to interstellar politics, approached the situation without the prejudices and historical baggage that burdened older species. They proposed a simple organizing principle: every sentient species deserved self-determination and equal standing. The Zoraxians' fundamental mistake was believing diversity was a weakness, Maya Rodriguez explained to a group of alien communication specialists. They tried to impose uniformity across different worlds and cultures. We see diversity as a strength. This philosophy formed the foundation of the new Galactic Council. Unlike the hierarchical structure of the Empire, the Council operated on consensus, with each species having an equal voice regardless of their technological advancement or military power. The former Zoraxian territories transformed into a collection of independent worlds connected by trade, cultural exchange, and mutual defense agreements. Earth provided technology and expertise in areas where humans excelled, while learning from other species in fields where they were more advanced. Kevin Garcia now headed an interspecies technology exchange program. Humans are particularly good at adapting and combining different technologies. He explained to visitors from a world called Nera. We can help bridge different technological approaches across species. Not all Zoraxians had supported their empire's conquests. As their imperial government collapsed, reform-minded Zoraxians established a new democratic system on their homeworld. After 3 years of probation, Zoraxian representatives were cautiously welcomed into the Galactic Council. We must learn from our past failures, the Zoraxian delegate stated at their first council appearance. Our society became stagnant through conquest rather than cooperation. We seek to make amends. Admiral Blackwell oversaw the development of an interspecies defense force designed to prevent any future empire from rising. The fleet combined technologies from all member worlds, creating defensive capabilities far beyond what any single species could achieve alone. Scientists from across the galaxy studied why humanity had been able to resist where others had failed. Dr. Lisa Hernandez participated in a comprehensive research project examining this question. Humans evolved in an environment that required constant adaptation. She explained during a presentation of their findings. Most species in the galaxy developed in more stable environments, leading to greater specialization but less adaptability. Our diverse backgrounds and constant competition prepared us for challenges in ways unique among known sentient life. Zoraxian historical archives, now open to all species, reveal the Empire's internal assessment of their failure on Earth. The fundamental error in Operation Earth Acquisition was categorizing humans as merely another labor species. Despite their technological limitations, humans possess extraordinary psychological resilience and adaptive capacity. Most notably, they prefer death while fighting to life under subjugation, a trait we failed to identify in our initial assessment. As the Galactic Council session concluded, representatives moved to a reception where foods from dozens of worlds were served. Former enemies now broke bread together, discussing trade agreements and cultural exchanges. Admiral Blackwell stood by a window overlooking Lake Geneva, speaking with a tall, blue-skinned delegate from a distant world. "Do you think another empire will ever try to conquer Earth again?" the alien asked. Peter smiled slightly. "They might try, but I suspect news has spread across the galaxy by now." "What news is that?" "That if you want to enslave humanity, you should probably make other plans.